Hello, hello. Welcome to the Film Music House at Sundance Film Festival 2021. I am very excited to have with me today Emile Mosseri. Emile has had 3 films at Sundance in the past: Kajillionaire, The Last Black Man in San Francisco, and the 2020 Sundance U.S. Dramatic Grand Jury and Audience Award winner, Minari. For TV, he's also scored the HBO show Random Acts of Flyness and the Amazon series Homecoming. Emile's a member of bands called The Dig and many others who have toured with the Jesus and Mary Chain, The Walkmen, The Antlers, and many more. Thank you so much for joining me, Emile.
Thanks for having me. What a treat.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. I was just curious, what has your experience been with Sundance Pass? Like, what do you feel about the festival? What does it instill in you?
Oh man, there's a lot. I feel like the last 2 Sundances in a row were particularly magical. 2 years ago, when Last Black Man in San Francisco premiered, that was sort of my first theatrical film that I'd scored, like feature length film that I scored on my own. And yeah, it was terrifying. It was exciting. It was all of the above. It was magical and agonizing in the beginning. Just at the points, just to you create something. You work so hard on a piece of work, and then it gets let out into the world, and there's something very vulnerable about that I wasn't really prepared for the first time around, with premiering Last Black Man at the Eccles, and just everybody that was in the room too, like so many people that I admire and great artists were in the room that was the part that was agonizing for me, like watching the movie with them in the room. It was like you hear everything that you wish you would have changed, like every single cue. I was like, oh my God, I ruined this movie. And they're going to find out, everyone's going to find it's that kind of feeling.
Right.
But without that, you don't have the real release. Like the highs aren't as high if you don't have that kind of fear, I think, at least for me. That was really a special one, because the film was well received, and I got to be there with my friends with Joe and Jimmy and Christina and Adam and all the people that had worked on that movie. It was a first for all of us, so it was a real camaraderie and something really special and real family around that movie that was really, that's completely tied into Sundance for me. That was like the moment that we all kind of went there together and went through that together, which was really fun.
Awesome. Yeah. Are you one of those composers that never are finished with their work? You always turn in a score and you're like, I should have done this, I should have fixed this. Or do you know, like, when it's done, when you're like, this is awesome, I couldn't touch this piece?
A little of both. I never really fully feel the "this is awesome" thing. Or maybe I do. I can feel that sometimes, like when I'm alone in a room watching it or listening to it. But the minute there's other people, other human beings in the same space, my experience is completely changed. Then I find the things it reveals itself to me, the things that I actually really love about it, and the things that I feel like I would wish I could change. That all reveals itself to me if I were to sit in a room with you and watch a movie or listen to a piece of music. Then it's like, oh, I'm excited for them to hear this part. Oh, I don't want them to hear this part. But you don't really know until you experience that communal experience.
Yeah.
You can even just be one other person.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, tell me about Minari. How was that film different than Last Black Man in San Francisco for you? And it's obviously been getting such amazing attention. Tell me a little bit about the film, about your score, and your experience with it.
Yeah, it was a very different experience in the sense that I got brought on board much earlier on. I got brought on board for Minari before they started shooting. So because I'd worked with some of the same people on both films, Christina O, the producer, produced both of those films with Plan B. And then, you know, Everybody at 824, you know, that's more this side of it now, but worked on both films. And then Harry Yoon, who is an additional editor on Last Black Man in San Francisco, edited Minari. So I went into this experience with Christina and Harry like we were already all friends. So we went into this experience kind of being like, I got brought on early because of that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that hugely shaped the experience. You know, writing at the script stage was something that I'd never experienced before. That was really magical and really I would like to do whenever possible from here on out. You know, when if the project permits. You know, but I think that
Yeah.
you know, because of that, I was able to just write a bunch of music in the spirit of the film and just sort of absorb the script and write and write and write, and then give that music to Isaac and Harry, and they had the music in the process, in the editing process. They assembled the film with that in hand, which made my job much easier on the back end. Once I saw the film, I still had a lot of work to do, but it was, you know, all the temp music was my music, so I didn't have to pry temp music out of a director's ear, you know, out of Isaac's ear, because he didn't even have we didn't give him the chance, you know. And he was incredible. Just he embraced that and was incredibly trusting and gave amazing direction and sort of gently, quietly steered the ship in a way that made me feel like empowered to write whatever I was feeling and thinking, you know. So.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I was going to ask, because it's a team that you worked with, were you more relaxed and kind of more able to feel like you could creatively be more daring, so to speak, because you already had this relationship?
Yeah, I think I was more relaxed. I think it's just different, you know, with Joe Talbot, who directed Last Black Man. We it was both of our first time, so we were in the weeds together in a way that like felt we got to really be daring and explore, and I like nothing about it felt safe. Like I felt he pushed me in a direction, like musically, that we found this sound together. Like he made some really bold choices musically in that film, in Last Black Man in San Francisco, that I'm really like grateful for. That he pushed to have the music be this big, grandiose, kind of bombastic force in the film in a way that I think was really bold. And he sort of empowered me to go to that place, and was really supportive and encouraging. But it was terrifying for both of us, because not just musically, just the experience of you know, crazy deadlines and not knowing how to do it and just figuring it out. Like, you know, I said yes to that opportunity. They said, yeah, I can score a full feature film for an orchestra, but I didn't know how to do it. I said I knew how to do something that I didn't know how to do,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you just throw yourself into the deep end, and you have to figure out how to do it. Or
Yeah.
people will find out that you're full of shit, you know? So it's like, kind of like, I was more relaxed with Minari, but I didn't feel like I was able to take more risks with Minari. I felt like very much like, because I had Joe, like there was no playing it safe with the music, you know. It wasn't an option for Last Black Man. So yeah, I'm grateful for both of them for completely different reasons. They're such different filmmakers that have such different styles, and that's what makes this job so exciting, is that no two directors are the same, and it never becomes repetitive, because you're navigating different personalities and different types of artists, you know, each time.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And I've seen such great coverage on your scores, people loving both Last Black Man in San Francisco and Minari and Kajillionaire. And just, I feel that you're working with directors early on in your career that give you a lot of space to bring your craft to the film space, and really makes it stand out, so that us as audience members really get to tune into what you're doing and how you're contributing to the film, The question I have for you is, what do you feel a film score is best? What's its purpose? I'm trying to think of how best to question this, but like a film score, what do you feel its role is in storytelling?
Well, that's a great question. It's a big one. Like, I think it depends film to film. Some films, um, beg for big music and for like the music to tell us how to feel, and some films, it's just like stay out of the way, like, some films have very minimal music. Like, I think of like the Coen brothers and Carter Burwell, and like you have Fargo, and then you have No Country for Old Men, where the music is like, where not to put music is such an important of a choice as where to put music, And I think that, it's just different case to case. I used to feel like your job was for the music to disappear and for nobody to notice it, but for them to feel it. But I don't think that's always true. I think there's some of my favorite scores do that, where the music is there the whole time, but you don't really notice it or feel, like, you just feel it. It doesn't announce itself. And then there's some scores where the score really shows up, like in a huge way, and it announces its presence, but for whatever reason it works, So the role kind of changes from project to project, but I think it has to. My favorite film music, like, it becomes, my favorite film scores are so symbiotic with the films that you hear 3 notes or 3 seconds of a melody, and the whole feeling of the film comes flooding back to your, like, that's what it's kind of all about. If you can do that, then the marriage between those two things is, they're no longer a score and a film, they're one thing. And if you see an image of the film or still the film, you can hear the music. If you hear the music, you can see the film. They're one and the same. That's kind of the role that's most exciting to me.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's a great analogy to kind of bring back the nostalgic emotions of what you experienced in the film just through hearing the notes of the music, which is why I
Yeah,
think it's really important to watch a film first and then, hear the film score within the story rather than listen to a film score all on
I
its own,
agree.
because
I agree.
it doesn't quite work that way.
No, yeah. Well, you're doing a disservice sometimes to the director by listening to the score a lot, or like really immersing yourself in the score before you see the film. I think in a way is, and I've done it many times where I just haven't got around to seeing a film, but I'm excited about this composer's work. So I'm not really practicing what I'm preaching. But that being said, I think the best way is to experience it all as one thing and let it wash over you as one work. You know, because if you listen to a film score for months and you drive around and you listen to it, and you listen to it when you're looking at this mountain, or you're listening to it when you're whatever and looking at this couch or whatever it is, you're going to create your own associations, and it's not how it was really intended to be experienced. That being said, my favorite scores stand up as albums, without the film, but it's even that much more enjoyable when you're like wallowing in the spirit of something of the film you've already seen, and you're just keeping the party going emotionally, so to speak.
Yeah. Absolutely. With Minari, the thing I felt while watching the film is the score. I don't know how to say this quite succinctly, but it reminded me of like a kind of a lyrical song quality to the music, but like an album that you listen to with your family. Like there was
Oh,
this
cool.
sense of the music is from, this family's world that they would maybe put on, on a record player or whatever, on the stereo and listen to while they're eating dinner or whatnot. And I really liked that kind of sensation I got. Some of the music was very servicing to what was happening in the moment, but a lot of the more montage moments or kind of cutaways where the music can kind of really stand out. It gave me that sensation. And
Wow.
so I guess the question for you is, when you read the script and kind of got to know the family, what was some of the things that stood out to you that made you write that kind of a score?
Well, first of all, I love that, the idea that this sounds like an album that your family would get together and listen to. That's one of my favorite things I've heard said about, that's a so rewarding to hear that you say that it's landing that way. I think that, when I read this script, to answer your question, when I read this script, so much of the script, I mean, the script is all these 5 or 6 characters in a mobile home. Most of the script and the film takes place in this home, and it's the script was all dialogue, all in this house. So I didn't really know where my music was going to fit in the film at that stage. I didn't know that there was going to be these montages of, there was one scene in the script of Steven's character, of Jacob driving the tractor. And I thought, okay, and I wrote a piece of music called Tractor, because I had that. I wanted them to like use it for that. I like naming instrumental music is always like kind of as fun, but kind of bullshit game where you're trying to color the music in a way. At least from what I do is I try to like name it something that the director will color it in some way. But anyway, I didn't really know that my music was going to be how my music was going to breathe in the film and where it was going to end up. I just wrote a bunch of music from the emotional place of absorbing that story and getting to know those characters. And then Harry Yoon, the editor of this film, he and I were on the phone before they started shooting, and I was sending him cues while they were shooting, and he was assembling scenes with my music and extending scenes to fit my music in a way that I'm really, really grateful for. And he along with Isaac, he placed pieces of music that I had written that were maybe kind of not throwaway, but I didn't think would be main themes. He placed them in places in the film that I never would have thought to do. So it was really a team effort there. So I think like the music felt connected to I'm lucky that the music felt connected to the story, to Isaac and Harry, and that they used it in such a way that it inspired me further to write more music and extend things more. And there was a lot of external shots in the film, montages of the land. And I think that was a part of it too. It was just writing music that felt like it was the theme for Jacob's spiritual connection to the land. So I think that it was, but the fact that it's reading as this familial thing as well is really great to hear, because it is a very intimate story.
Absolutely. Well, before I let you go, I always like to ask people, you're on this great platform. We're here at Sundance Film Festival. What's one person you'd like to give a shout out to? It could be maybe an editor you worked with, or another composer you admire. Who's somebody that you just want to give a shout out to?
Oh, well, maybe just because it's fresh on my brain, because of this conversation, I would give a shout out to Harry Yoon, who edited Minari, and who's one of the most special and unique characters and beautiful people that I've met in this business. Yeah, I give a shout out to Harry, because he was really instrumental in all that. And also, yeah, just in the spirit of Sundance too. We'd been there together, and I think I'll go with Harry.
I love that. That's great. No,
Yeah.
I like the camaraderie and the sense of community that Sundance brings. So I'm glad to hear all about Harry in your interview. I can't wait to check out what else he's working on. Well, thank you so much for joining us in the Film Music House. My name is Chandler Poling, and for those of you that want to check out more content, just stay on this channel and you'll see some more. Thank you so much,
Awesome.
Emile.
Thanks so much for having me.